Welcome to Kung Fu Havoc number 2. So I've done a little research on DC Comics Scalphunter. I'm going to read you his biography, and then I want you guys to think about this shit, about what really makes a person native. That's the question, alright? And the reason why I put this in front of this video is because, biologically, DC Scalphunter is not native. Biologically, which means like by blood. He's not born of native sperm or egg. He is adoptive native, which doesn't make him less native. It just makes him not native by blood. That's why I asked this question. So, before I give you the image of this fella, we're going to read off a little bit about him. So, DC Comics Scalphunter, his name is Brian Savage. He's a fictional character. You can find him in Wild West Hero DC Universe. Scalphunter's first appearance is Weird Western Tales 39. Alright? Now, I'm only going to read this one paragraph. Excuse me. I'm going to read these two paragraphs. And then we're going to talk about Scalphunter. Alright. Brian Savage was born at some point during 1830 to Matt Savage. During his childhood, his family ranch was attacked by Kiowa Indians, and young Brian was abducted. The Indians raised him and named him, I'm going to fucking totally butcher this, they named him Kiwa no Te. He who's less than human. Let me spell that for y'all, because I'm pretty sure I fucking butchered that. K-E-W-O-H-N-O-T-A-Y. In translation says, he's less than human. Alright. His favorite weapon is a Bowie knife and a tomahawk, but he is an expert with a bow and arrow, a revolver, and a rifle. He is also very good at unarmed combat using mostly Indian wrestling moves. Okay, so we got that. Brian ultimately assumed the name Scalphunter as he left the tribe that raised him. From there, Brian has had many adventures with Old West fighting forces of evil, interacting with the likes of Jonah Hex, Batlash, and Nighthawk, who I have no idea who any of them is outside of Jonah Hex because it's the first comic book I ever read when I was 3 years old. Don't ask. It's a long story because my reading surely didn't improve since I was 3. Alright, so you guys can go do research on that and then ask yourself the question. Ah, shit. I forgot to show y'all the picture of this dude. Then ask yourself the question, what makes a person native? Alright, so this is the image of DC Comics Scalphunter. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on the biological shit that I just read. So he basically is not a native by blood. He's kind of like Iron Eyes Cody. Because believe me, when I found out Iron Eyes Cody was not biologically a Native American, it messed me up. It messed me up really, really good. It messed me up for quite some time, actually. I would like to say that it traumatized me to some form or another, but honorarily, he was very native because he stood for native stuff and he fought for native causes, not just because that was his job as an actor in a commercial. But this has nothing to do with Iron Eyes Cody. You can go Google him. I had to Google him. That's how I found out that he wasn't actually native, and it really destroyed me. But anyway, Scalphunter for DC Comics, he did do some stuff from what I read, but you guys got to go see and read it for yourself. I'm not a really big DC comic fan. But what I will say is this, besides the background noise that you hear, because they clearly don't see that fucking light is on, the reason why I ask what makes a native person a native, I have biological ties to native history, doing that my grandparents and great-grandparents are of native descent, okay? Now, I don't want to go into all that detail because this isn't about me. If you've been on my channel long enough, you know I've mentioned this shit one too many times. Especially since yesterday on TikTok, I had to show somebody else how native or how black am I. And I did that on TikTok. So, Mr. Savage, again, raised by natives, learns all their traditions, learns to fight the native way. He's just not native by blood. But they adopted him after they inducted him, or they abducted him and then they raised him as one of their own. So, kind of like if you see the movie Last of the Mohicans, where Daniel Day-Lewis is clearly not a native, but he was raised by natives. Unless I'm remembering this wrongly, but you know, because I do believe Graham Greene was in there, and Daniel Day-Lewis was the Last of the Mohicans with Graham Greene. And I sit there and I said to myself, okay, because I didn't know much about my own culture for native side of my family, because the only thing my great grandmother ever told me was stories, and how she had to go to a different school than blacks and whites, and she and her brother John wore moccasins. That's pretty much all I remember outside of folklore. So, Scalphunter, technically, for DC Comics, was white, whereas Scalphunter from Marvel Comics is a Comanche and is a native. Okay, just to get that clarified out of the way. I don't think I'm not gonna read Scalphunter. I think I'm gonna actually look into it and see what it does. I've never read the comics, so I can't give you a biased opinion. It's just that I don't know how many native characters DC Comics actually have. I know that Marvel has at least 13, 15 at best, which I will name off to my recollection. Alright? So you have 4 X-Men that were native: Warpath, Thunderbird, Dark Rider, and Forge. You have 3 Alpha Flight members. You have Talisman, Shaman, and Snowbird. Yes, Snowbird is Inuit. That makes her native. You have another First Nations native that is not an X-Man or Alpha Flight, and that would be Silver Fox. Alright, so you got those out of the way. You have Red Wolf 1, Red Wolf 2, Puma, Wyatt Wingfoot, American Eagle, Black Crow, and Apache Kid, and Jay Little Bear, who's a private in the Army. So you have that many. If you guys go back and count them all, you can tell me what it is. Now, for as far as DC, I don't know anybody outside of the Scalphunter for DC that I just discovered, and Apache Chief. So my next video, I'm going to see how many characters are native in DC Comics. But that being said, because of the background noise, I'm going to end this video. But I strongly suggest you guys go read Scalphunter. Brian Savage is his given name. Scalphunter is the name that he chose for himself, the same way I chose Echo Fang Grey Wolf. But here's the thing. My family was not abducted and raised by Cherokee. His family was abducted by Kiowa Indians, where his family was wiped out, and they took him and raised him. And then he left the tribe that raised him, taking the name Scalphunter, and went and fought crime and justice against natives or whatever. But I have to do more research, so forgive me, because I could be way off. So let me apologize now, just in case I am way the fuck off. But I'm going to make another video after I find out how many Native American heroes are in DC Comics as well as in Image Comics. I'm going to write that shit down. Alright, thank you guys very much for watching. I'm Echo Fan Grey Wolf. This is Comfort Habit number 2. Be seeing you.